Thanks, Leon. Drones are now an increasingly important part of our lives. Some professions use drones every day. For example, if you look at the lives of US soldiers, they will often use small drones called RQ-11 Ravens to provide last-minute reconnaissance, surveillance, and intelligence that's critical to saving the lives of soldiers. Now, aside from military applications, drones have many other applications. And it's estimated that overall, drones are about a $40 billion a year market. Applications include, as well as in defense, emergency services, agriculture, construction, and in oil and gas. Now, if we think about the future going beyond what drones are used for today and beyond the entertainment uses of drones, there's also the potential for package delivery. This example here is in Scotland, where drones have been used to deliver COVID-19 test kits. But a bigger market in the long run would be package delivery, for example, like what Amazon are doing with Amazon Prime Air, where you could potentially get packages delivered to your home in minutes rather than days. Now, that has been forecast to be a $50 billion a year market, so potentially a huge opportunity for drones and their application. Now, what many of these different applications have in common, both the existing applications like intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and future applications like package delivery, are that their ability to be effective is constrained by noise. And that noise comes from the propellers. So propeller noise is a key constraint on the growth of drones in these applications. What we are proposing to address this is to develop a silent propulsion system. In other words, a propulsion system for drones that has no moving parts. The physical principle that this operates on is called electro-aerodynamic propulsion. This works by charging a wire to a very high voltage such that the air around it gets ionized, meaning electrons are stripped off, leaving positively charged ions. These ions are accelerated electrostatically towards a negatively charged airfoil shape. Those ions collide with neutral air molecules, transferring momentum to them and creating an ionic wind. This is the mechanism of creating propulsion with no moving parts like propeller blades. Over the last 10 years at MIT, we've advanced the basic understanding of that and then developed a flying prototype airplane, which first flew in 2018. The airplane prototype is shown here. It's about 5 meters in wingspan, flew for about 10 seconds, although had an endurance of 90 seconds, and was the first flight of an airplane with no moving parts. If we zoom in under the wings, you can see how the propulsive force is generated. That's by an array of wires that generate the ions, and then an array of airfoils that re-neutralize those ions, with a wind being generated under the wing. Now let me show you a video comparing the first flight of this airplane to a flight of the Raven. This will give you a sense of how quiet ion propulsion is compared to conventional propulsion as is used in the Raven drone. What this demonstrates is that you can hear conventional propulsion from many, many tens of meters away, whereas within a few meters, ion propulsion is completely silent. That clearly has value in applications such as intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, where you wouldn't want to reveal your position, and is useful in cases like package delivery, where silent package delivery is much more likely to be accepted, and also in other areas like traffic monitoring or air pollution monitoring, where you don't want to create noise pollution. Now, we've developed that version 2 aircraft, which flew for 10 seconds but had a 90-second endurance. We're now working on a version 3, which has significantly advanced the technology over version 2 in 2018, such that now we can target endurances of up to 30 minutes carrying a small payload. Now, that's not quite competitive yet with the RQ-11 Raven, but we think that's getting to the point where, with a successful demonstration here, we will be at the edge of commercializing the technology and producing a small-scale drone. So our overall trajectory is that over the last 10 years, we've developed and published the fundamental science. Now we're advancing to the point of a demonstrator with an outdoor flight of some tens of minutes. And we see that as the critical staging point to then starting a company which will aim to produce intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance targeted drone, as well as drones that can apply to other applications such as environmental monitoring. If we look beyond the next few years, though, we see that such drones could potentially be useful in the $50 billion a year market, which is package delivery. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the breakout room.